let's take a look at how phonology and morphology work together and how as teachers we can constantly be pointing this out to our students. So we want to train our students to look at the structure of words in addition to the sound symbol correspondences. So let's look at a few examples and I'll show you what I mean. Let's look at the word teacher. When I break it up into its sounds, we have t, e, ch, Now some of the things I'm going to look at with my students is, what letters spell the E sound in this word? EA spells E. What letters spell the ch sound in this word? CH spells ch. But now I want to look at the morphology. This works just fine for being able to read and spell the word, but I still want to point out every time to my students if there's anything else any morphological features to point out. So I want to point out that ER is a suffix in this word. ER can also just be a grapheme that represents a sound. So in the word her, H-E-R, ER is simply a grapheme that spells In this word, ER is a grapheme that spells but it's also a suffix that has meaning, and it means one who, or a person who, so one who teaches is a teacher. So I want to point this out to my students. So when we spell this word, something that I've been doing when my students spell a word, then I'll say, let's say it out loud. Now, I don't want them to say T-E-A-C-H-E-R. I want them to say T-E-A-C-H-E-R. And I want them to put together, notice how I went EA really quickly. That's because I want them to remember those two letters going together to produce one sound. And then I learned this from Pete Bowers, another long pause before you add that suffix ER. Now let's look at the next word. If I'm just thinking about phonology and what I know about sound symbol correspondences, I would put these two together, this EA. So there's another way to look at this word. Really, we have the prefix re and the base word act to make the word react. Now, a student might sound out the first time, eeked, reeked, which isn't a word. So we might have to then say, do you see any prefixes or common prefixes in this word? Do you see any base words that you've seen before? So likely they'll see RE as re, and that's the only prompt I need to give them, because this whole time I would have been saying or introducing that RE prefix. We would have seen in other words. So just by giving them that little prompt, are there any common prefixes? They're going to recognize that RE. They might also see that common base word act, because it's in it's a word on its own and it's in a lot of other words. So that's how I would tackle this word. And I would point out that we know that EA can be a grapheme that spells E, among other things. But in this case, E and A do not go together. They are not a vowel digraph here. The RE is a prefix and base word act. Simply pointing that out to our students, even if they don't read the word correctly and I need to teach them this word, I'm going to point that out to them. I'm always pointing out the structure of words. Now let's look at one more, and I've talked about does before. Instead of going by sound, d, z, and then just basically saying that like the OE doesn't make sense and we just have to memorize it, instead, I'm going to look at it, the morphology. So I'm going to look at the fact that ES is a suffix and do is a base. So that this is the word do, D-O, plus suffix ES. And I'll connect it by saying, I do, he does, I am doing, it is done. So that I can show, have them hear and kind of make that connection between the words do, does, done, doing, that they all share a common base, which is D-O. Now, I know what you're thinking, the pronunciation does change. This is a really common theme in English. And so I'm happy to introduce this early on because they're going to keep seeing it over and over and over again, that the spelling stays intact, but the pronunciation shifts. So I hope that this was a helpful video. I'll keep doing more videos like this so we can just kind of talk about the structure of words and how morphology and phonology are best buddies, and every word we can look at the morphology and the phonology. Or maybe they're worse enemies because sometimes the pronunciation doesn't quite match up. But either way, English is morphophonemic. We're going to see these two working together in words, and the more that we understand it and embrace it, I think the better for our students. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments.